She returned my grandmother's engagement ring, saying, "I deserve a real diamond." Years later, she watched that same ring sell for $80,000 while wearing her cheap lab-grown one. Of all the ways I had imagined my proposal night ending, this wasn't one of them. The old velvet box lay open on the coffee table, its soft fabric catching the flicker of candlelight. The ring, my grandmother's sapphire and diamond heirloom, rested cold and unwanted in my hand instead of on hers. Chloe looked at me with that expression that could cut through steel, and with a flat, almost bored tone, she said, "I deserve a real diamond, Alex. Not your grandmother's old stone." Her words hit like a slap across the soul. The room, once warm and filled with hope, suddenly felt like a stranger's apartment. The candles that had once glowed softly now cast harsh shadows on the walls. Even the scallops I'd cooked, the meal I'd thought would mark the start of our forever, suddenly smelled wrong, like the scent of a dream that had just died. I was 28, a quiet, steady architect who found beauty in things that lasted. My life was built on foundations, strong, stable, honest ones. I drove a reliable car, wore a simple watch, and found joy not in price tags but in the way my designs made people feel when they walked into a space that was made to endure. To me, value was never measured by glitter, but by legacy, the kind my grandparents shared, the kind that had survived time, struggle, and change. Chloe, on the other hand, was the opposite. 26 and brilliantly stylish, she worked as a senior buyer for a high-end fashion boutique. She lived in a world of brands, appearances, and images that changed every season. She knew every new collection, every designer's story. Where I saw history, she saw obsolescence. I once found that contrast exciting. Her spark, her drive, her passion for beauty. But standing there that night, as she returned the ring that meant more to me than anything I owned, I realized that the distance between us wasn't romantic tension anymore. It was a chasm. The ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a piece of my family's heart. My grandmother's Art Deco sapphire ring, crafted in 1925, represented everything I believed love should be. Something built to endure, not dazzle briefly before dying out. But to Chloe, it was an old stone. A relic without a designer label or a Tiffany box. She didn't see its soul, only its lack of status. The silence that followed was worse than any argument. I could hear the faint hiss of the candle's wick and the beating of my own heart. Slowly, I closed the velvet box, the click of it sounding like a door closing on a dream. "I understand," I said quietly, though my voice shook slightly. It was the calm tone I used with clients who wanted marble counters in rooms that needed wood floors. But Chloe wasn't a client. She was supposed to be my future. Her confident expression wavered, expecting me to argue, to beg, to promise a bigger ring. "Alex, don't be like this," she said quickly. "Be reasonable. It's not personal. But think about it, what will my friends say when they see this? My clients expect a certain image. They wear new Tiffany or Cartier every season. This," she gestured toward the velvet box as if it were a piece of trash. "It looks like costume jewelry." I stood up slowly, feeling the heavy weight of the ring in my pocket. "You're right," I said quietly. "It is an antique. The scene a love that lasted a lifetime. I thought that mattered. I thought that was the point." And with that, I walked out of her perfectly arranged apartment, leaving behind the candles, the dinner, and the version of my future that no longer existed. The following days were a storm of messages. "You're being so emotionally manipulative," one text said. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," another insisted. The worst came late one night. "If you loved me, you'd want me to have what makes me happy." It was then that I stopped replying. Trying to explain value to Chloe was like trying to describe color to someone who'd only ever seen in black and white. Weeks passed. Then, one morning, as I was scrolling through my phone, her Instagram post appeared like a cruel punch to the gut. She was smiling next to Mark, a venture capitalist she'd mentioned before. On her finger shone a massive, perfectly cut, lab-grown diamond. The caption read, "When you finally get what you deserve." The irony burned. I felt anger, then pity, then a strange kind of clarity. I took the ring to an old auction house, Everhart and Sons. The head appraiser, a gentleman named Mr. Sterling, examined it with reverence. "Remarkable," he whispered. "An untreated Burmese sapphire, circa 1925. This craftsmanship, it doesn't exist anymore. With provenance like yours, it could fetch $40,000 to $80,000. I remembered standing there, stunned. Chloe had rejected a treasure for a trend. I left the auction house with the ring still in my pocket, its weight feeling different. No longer a symbol of rejection, but of vindication. I didn't sell it. I kept it safe, locked away, letting it remind me of what truly endured. Years passed. The hurt softened into wisdom. My architectural firm grew, earned awards, and I finally found someone new, Sarah, a historian with a kind soul and eyes that saw beauty in meaning, not in price tags. When I told her about Chloe and the ring, she didn't react with shock or judgment. She just said softly, "What a beautiful, heartbreaking thing to be offered a legacy like that and not see it." Her words stayed with me. One evening, as we cooked dinner together, she said gently, "That ring protected you, Alex, but you don't need its protection anymore. Let it go. Let it help you build the next chapter." And for the first time, I realized she was right. The auction hall smelled of polished wood and old money. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. The ring, my grandmother's sapphire, was the highlight piece of the night. Sarah sat beside me, her hand resting comfortably on mine. I was scanning the catalog when a familiar, cold laugh caught my ear. My heart tightened, and my eyes followed the sound. Chloe, sitting just a few rows ahead. Her hair styled perfectly, her makeup flawless, but her eyes, they looked tired. She was with Mark, who seemed more interested in his phone than the event. On her left hand, the same lab-grown diamond sparkled, bright, but empty. The auctioneer's voice rang out, "Lot 19. An exceptional Art Deco sapphire and diamond ring, circa 1925. I saw Chloe's head snap up. Her eyes locked onto the screen where the ring appeared in magnified detail. For a moment, she looked confused. Then shock spread across her face as recognition dawned. 30,000, the auctioneer began. 35, 40, 45. The bidding grew fierce. I watched her expression shift from confusion to horror. She turned in her seat, searching the room until her eyes met mine. 80,000. Came a final bid from a phone line. The gavel fell. Sold for $80,000. The room murmured with admiration. Chloe stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. She walked toward me, pale, trembling. "Alex," she whispered. "That was your grandmother's ring." "It was," I said calmly. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice quivered between anger and regret. "I did," I replied. "I told you it meant everything to me. I told you it represented a love that lasted a lifetime. You just didn't want to listen." Her eyes filled with tears. "I was young, Alex. I was stupid. I see it now. I see how beautiful it was." Her gaze flicked toward Sarah. "You've moved on." "Yes," I said simply, "because I finally learned the difference between something that shines and something that lasts." Her eyes dropped to the giant artificial stone on her hand. The silence between us said everything. Then she turned and left the room, Mark following behind like a shadow. Outside, I finally let out a long breath. Sarah's hand found mine, steady and warm. We went to our favorite Italian restaurant afterward, and over dinner, I realized something. It was finally over, truly over. When the money came through, I used part of it to open a small studio, a space dedicated to craftsmanship, to timeless beauty, to things that would last. Word spread. Clients came, wanting pieces that had soul. One of them even said, "I want something like that ring, something with history." Months later, I heard through mutual friends that Chloe and Mark had broken up. It didn't stir anything in me except a distant sadness, like hearing about a character in a story you've already finished reading. Life with Sarah blossomed. For her birthday, I built her a bookshelf from reclaimed walnut, hand-finished with care. When she saw it, She touched the wood gently and whispered, "You made this for me?" Her eyes filled with tears. That moment meant more than any diamond ever could. One evening, as we cooked together, my laptop buzzed. An email from Chloe Parker. It read, "Alex, I know I don't deserve to reach out, but I saw your studio feature in Design Weekly. You've built the life you deserved. I'm genuinely happy for you. I've been in therapy, learning why I made the choices I did. Rejecting you was the greatest mistake of my life. I confused price with value, and I finally understand what you tried to give me.
I'm sorry.
I read it once, then closed the laptop.
No anger. No triumph.
Just peace. Maybe she had grown. Maybe not. It didn't matter anymore. Sarah came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything's perfect," I said, kissing her forehead, because the real value was never in the ring. It was in the lesson it left behind, the difference between what merely shines and what truly lasts. Like and subscribe if you believe that real value isn't found in diamonds, but in the people who see the meaning behind them.